Hey guys, welcome to a full walkthrough of OBS Studio. Now I'm running Windows 7 here, and I'm going to do a full walkthrough of how to customize your settings for what you want. So right now what you're seeing on screen is you're currently seeing the preview right now, which is taking up most of the screen. You can kind of move it around and make it smaller if you want. You got your simple buttons, your start streaming button, which you have to customize to make that work. Studio mode, which just shows you scenes and scene transitions between them. I like to keep that off. And you got your exit. Currently I started recording already, so it says stop recording, but that usually says start recording. So that's just the basics, very basic. Let's start by going over what the stuff at the bottom is. First of all, you want to create a scene. Now you might already have a scene created, but we're gonna start one. I'm gonna name this scene. I'm gonna name it let's say display record. So now right now you guys can't see anything, so I'll have to actually set this up. Alright, so what I've done is, let me walk you through. I clicked the plus button here. I added a display capture, which is this right here. My mouse is hovering over it. Now it'll bring up this screen and it'll ask you which display you want. I have two displays, so I'm going to be wanting display 0, which is my primary monitor. I'm going to keep capture cursor on so you can see where my mouse is. I'm going to hit OK. So now you'll have display capture here, and you're going to be in the scene display record, which I have right here. Now you can do two things here. Normally you can click and drag and change how you want it, but I'm going to put it back in the center. There, you can lock it so you can't click and drag it, but if you have something else, you can drag that, but not this display you have. So I'm going to keep that unlocked. You can also make it go invisible, and you guys are going to see a black screen, but we're going to turn that back on. So for the purpose of this, I'm going to set up my webcam. So I'm going to call it webcam. And I'm going to set it to my C922 Pro Stream webcam, which I have right there. Hello, everyone. Now you can deactivate it from this screen by hitting deactivate. That'll close it, and activate will turn it back on. It's pretty simple here. Configure video will bring up whatever you have set up for your camera's video configuration. Now the properties you see here, this is all for my specific webcam, so you may not see that. And configure crosshair, I have no idea what that does. It just doesn't work, so don't worry about it. Now I wouldn't mess with any of these settings as I just did, because it'll kind of, the default settings here are fine. And if you want to make it upside down, click flip vertically, pretty self-explanatory. The audio output mode is going to be outputting audio to your webcam if you have it set up. Now I don't want that, so I have capture audio only set up. So now you can see my face right here. Now the reason you can see it and why it's not covered by my display capture is the ordering you see here. These up and down arrows will show you how the ordering works. So now if I hit the down button, it'll put my webcam behind my display capture. So you cannot see my webcam as it is behind the display capture. There I am. So I'm going to move it back up so you can see me. Hello guys, it's me again. So you can resize your images by using these little things on the edge here. and you can drag it wherever you want. This is a good time to lock my display capture because I don't want to move my display, but I do want to move my camera. So I just went to the wrong one. I went over to Fallout Record. So now you'll see your mixer right here. This is pretty self-explanatory. This will control your desktop audio, so how loud it will be. If a sound is played, you can see how loud it is on this slider. You can see how loud my mic is with this mic auxiliary thing right here. And this is my webcam, which is not actually capturing sound right now, so that's why it is not moving. So currently I have my microphone lowered a little bit because my microphone is usually louder than my desktop audio, so I wanted to bring it down to balance the audio between what you're playing on your computer and what I'm saying myself. So I'm just a bit louder than what you're hearing from my computer, if that makes any sense. Now you can go into your advanced audio properties and you can increase your volume past 100% if you want. I wouldn't down mix to mono because that means, your stereo sound will be condensed into mono sound. And when there's both stereo and mono sound coming at the same time, the recording kind of fucks up. So I wouldn't touch that. Panning is really just the left and right of where your sound is coming from. So right now, I can't actually move it because I'm actually in stereo right now. But if I down mixed it to mono, you would be able to move it left and right. The sync offset will offset the audio capturing of whatever device you want. So right now I have my mic auxiliary with an offset of 50 milliseconds. So when my mouth moves right here, there's at least a little bit of syncing up. So that, because my microphone captures sound faster than that captures video, so I want to delay my microphone. So I delayed it by 50 milliseconds so that it syncs up pretty well. Audio monitoring is something for a little bit more complex. It's usually used for playing music in the background or something when you don't want to hear the music yourself, but I wouldn't worry about it. So we're going to close that. So now let's talk about the important stuff here. Scene transition is not important. I keep it at cut. It's just the difference between moving between things in the scenes here. Now the important stuff, the settings. Now you guys may have seen these settings and say, what the hell is all of this? I don't know where to start. What does all this mean? So let's start at the beginning. General tab up at the top. Language is English. The theme is default. You can change that. I like default. Stats dialog you don't need, and I like to keep it automatically checking for updates so it can tell me. For output, show confirmation dialog when starting streams. So when you hit this button, start streaming, it will come up with a box saying, do you want to start streaming? Yes or no. Same thing for the next option. Do you want to stop streaming? Yes or no. And this button I sometimes have on, but it's automatically record when streaming. So when you hit the start streaming button, it'll start recording it at the same time. And this next one only appears when you have this one checked. Keep recording when stream stops is pretty self-explanatory. Source alignment snapping is something you don't really want to worry about. It's just the snapping of what you see here, snapping to like the edges of the screen and stuff. Don't worry about it. Keep it disabled. So, projectors, hide cursor over projector, make projectors always on top. Projectors are a special kind of, it's a special kind of source that will do as they say, project. So, I wouldn't really worry about that. You won't be using it too much. System tray I have enabled, which is this right here, you see? The system tray. you can check this minimize to system tray when started, which will minimize down to over here when you start up your computer, and always minimize to system tray instead of taskbar means it'll minimize down to here instead of to here. Studio mode is just changing what you have there, but you want to keep that off usually. It's kind of stupid. Now here, stream type, I use Twitch, and this is my stream key, which I will not click show. And you want to click the server that's closest to you. For me, it's New York. Twitch is usually the most common way of streaming and stuff. But you can do any of these other things if you want to set it up. I can make a separate video. Now, output is where you're probably going to be the most confused. So what you're going to see here is this is all kind of grayed out because I'm recording right now. So let's start at recording. I have my type set to standard. I like to not make this too complicated because I can only screw with streaming. What I do is for my encoder, you see here, I have set use stream encoder, which means it will use this stuff to like make your recorded video. So you will only have to change around all of this stuff. Now, audio track you don't really need to worry about. Encoder, I like to use X264, but no real need. I don't keep this Enforce Streaming Service encoder settings checked. I keep it unchecked because it depends on what you're using, but Twitch doesn't have any. I like to keep my output rescaled when I'm streaming so that I can have a higher frame rate in-game. Outputting your stream at 1920 by 1080 is a lot more demanding on your computer. Your rate control, I use CBR with a bit rate of 2800. You want to make sure your bit rate is below 3500 if you are streaming on Twitch. If you have a great computer, you might want a higher bit rate, so a 3500 might be good for you. Above 3500 though, you will be often booted off of Twitch because they think you're DDoSing them. Your bit rate is how many bits you are sending in a packet. So you want to keep that low so you don't think they're DDoSing you. I don't like to use custom buffer size, to be honest. What it does is still kind of a mystery, but just keep it unchecked. Keyframe interval, I saw someone say set it at 2, so I set it at 2. Don't question some of these things. You can keep that off if you want. There's nothing really too useful about this that you need to know. CPU usage preset. Now this is what you're going to be seeing and kind of be confused about. CPU usage preset is, as it says, higher equals less CPU. So the faster your CPU usage preset is, the less CPU you'll be using. You use the least CPU on ultra fast, which means you're going to have lowered quality though. Remember that this does affect quality quite greatly. So I like to keep it on faster. I used to keep it on very fast and super fast if I was streaming. But now that I got a better CPU, I can put it on faster. And these things you don't really need to worry about. Keep it on none. And X264 options, don't worry about that. That's a lot more in-depth. For the recording, I like to make sure my recording format is not on MP4 because MP4 often corrupts. So I would keep it on MKV. It's good and it can be outputted to YouTube pretty easily. Audio, I wouldn't really mess with this. And replay buffer, I wouldn't really mess with that. On to audio. Depending on the quality of your microphone, you're going to want either 4.1. This really doesn't matter. I like to have the higher quality though, so it picks up a wider range of sound. Stereo, you can keep it on mono if you want only one sound, but I wouldn't recommend it, as a lot of things like game stuff and sound that you get from browsers is often stereo instead of mono, so keep it on stereo. Your desktop device, essentially your default stuff should be, what you hear. I just have mine set to speakers high definition audio device, which is what I'm using to hear the stuff that happens on my computer, and that's what it's going to be listening to with the desktop audio device. You can have a second one, but you don't really need it. The mic auxiliary audio device, this is your microphone. Your default, again, will often be the correct one. I had to set mine to microphone to USB advanced audio device because I'm using a Blue Yeti right now. And this you don't really need to worry about, just keep it on fast. This stuff down here is if you want to use push to talk, and I don't, so I'm keeping none of that checked. Onto video. Again, I can't change any of these settings while video output is currently active. I'd keep disable arrow checked, because arrow slows down the performance of your computer. It's a Windows 7 setting for your Windows. It'll make things look clear, like black. It'll just decrease the performance of your computer. I would keep it checked. The base canvas resolution is at 1920 by 1080, and this is the canvas it refers to. So it's saying the resolution of this is going to be whatever you select here. Keep it at 1920 by 1080 if that's what your monitor is, which it probably is, because that's going to be what you're seeing on your screen, and it's going to be the same size. The output scaled resolution just depends on how good your computer is again. I have mine set to 1280 by 720 because I don't want to output at 1920 by 1080. I think that uses too much internet for me. My upload speeds are not very good. So my output scaled resolution is just going to be 720. So in YouTube terms, this would be 720p. It's still HD, but it's not 1080p. The downscale filter is really only if you have a different resolution here for your canvas and a different one for your output scaled resolution. If these two numbers are not the same, this comes into play. Now this is how much it downscales it and what it downscales it with. This is a sharpened scaling. I use bicubic. The basic setting here is good enough. There's no real reason to change it too much. I just like it. So for your FPS, depending on your CPU and your video card, you want to keep it at 30. I'm running at 60 because a lot of the games that I record or stream look a lot better and more understandable, like Osu at 60 frames per second. So I try to run at 60 frames per second in 720p. However, if you are running 720p, it's recommended that you stay at 30 frames per second. Preference. See how it affects your computer and change it from there. Keep this setting at common FPS values because that's going to be common FPS values as it says. Hotkeys is next. This is really stuff that if you want to set it to your keyboard shortcuts, that's what this is. My start streaming button is home, stop streaming is end, start recording insert, stop recording delete. Very simple. That's all I have. Everything else I try not to worry about. Now in the advanced tab, I have for general process priority above normal. What process priority is going to be what you're going to be seeing in here. So these are your processes and they have priority. Currently, the priority of OBS is set to above normal because that's my setting on OBS. You can see I have it set to above normal. Your video renderer, I like to use Direct3D and all these settings. You can copy it if you want, but it's fine. Audio, now this is if you want to use, like say, music in the background without you hearing it yourself. I wouldn't worry about it. It doesn't affect you. Recording, this is what your file name is going to be set as. I like to have the default thing here, which is going to be the year, the month, the day, the hour, the minute. It divides up so it's auto naming your recordings. Yeah, your recordings, your videos. And I wouldn't worry about any of that stuff. Stream delay, this is the delay between what happens on your screen and what is sent to the streaming service you're using. I'm using Twitch, and the streaming service, this will just delay it as it says. So, I don't know. If you don't want to get stream sniped in, say, Hearthstone or something, you would want this enabled. But if you want to interact with your chat, then I would keep it enabled. Make sure automatically reconnect is enabled if you're using Twitch. The base settings here are fine. 10 for retry delay and maximum retries of 20. The network bind to IP. What this is binding your upload to a specific IP address. I wouldn't worry about this. What you're using, be it Wi-Fi or Ethernet, that's completely fine as it is. And don't worry about any of these other settings. So that goes over what the settings are. So next, I would like to go over the filters. So when you right click on a source, you might see a couple of things here. You're going to see like you can add stuff, you can copy filters from one. You can rename it, like if I want to say make it display capture 6, I can do that. I can remove it, which you can also use delete. Order, this just does the same thing as these buttons, except you can move to the top or move to the bottom. Transform, what I use this for is this transform will transform or move your sources in a certain way. The one I use the most is center to screen, because if I move this display, because I unlocked it, if I move it around, I can't really quite get it to the center. You can kind of see these black lines at the edge here. So what I do is I just hit center to screen. Now, for something that's not quite the size of the screen, you can use fit to screen or stretch to screen. These are for smaller things, or if you accidentally resize it, you're like, oh no, it doesn't fit anymore. You want to transform, hit stretch to screen. So that'll set it back. So I'm going to lock that again. Hide in Mixer will hide it in here. My webcam does not have any audio, so I'm going to hide this in Mixer, so now it does not show up. Deinterlacing, I wouldn't worry about this. This is just stupid stuff. Scale filter, again, I wouldn't worry about it. Now, this is both of these things I wouldn't worry about. It's the projector, or what you're going to be seeing. So basically it's going to be this, the preview, but in full screen. Or you can put it in windowed mode, as it says, of just a specific source if you want. You can also have the preview be projected onto, say, my other display. Like if I wanted to see my face the entire time, I could set this to display 1. And what that would do is on my second monitor, it would just be my face. I wouldn't want that though, because I don't want to look at myself. Filters, this is what I want to go over, but first, properties is literally just the thing you see when you initially add a source. So if you click properties, you'll see this screen again, and you can change any of the settings. Filters, there's a bunch of different things here. Audio and video filters, I wouldn't really worry about this. This is really just if you're more confident in your usage of OBS and you're more experimental. Your effect filters, most of these you don't really need to worry about. However, one thing that you may notice is that I am in fact using a green screen. You can see that behind me. It's pretty much a solid color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chroma key. Chroma key is essentially, it's a green screen. So you can have, I like to set this to custom. So what I want to do is I want to look behind me and say, okay, or you can actually do that. So you say, what here fits this color? So you're kind of like, okay, something like that. Now we want to turn that back on. So now what you're seeing right now is that it's green screened so much that it's green screening me. So what you want to do is you want to move the similarity bar. This will change how much it green screens of what color. Smoothness just changes how smooth the green screening is. If your green screen is a really nice solid color, you can keep the smoothness down pretty low. The key spill color reduction, if you see right now, that's not a good example, but say you have a reflective surface or a white surface like the back of my chair, you can see it's slightly tinged green. It might be a little hard to tell, but it's slightly tinged green. What this does is just reduces the color spill of your green screen, or whatever color you have selected. So right now it's just reducing the amount of green there is on my screen, or on my webcam. I have that like this because this looks about right. Right? Yeah. So the contrast will literally change the contrast. You don't really need to worry about this. Brightness and gamma, you may not really understand the difference between the two, but brightness is literally just the brightness, but gamma affects it a little bit differently. I wish I could explain it a little bit better, but play around with it for yourself if you're using it. So yeah, that's that filter. The mesh mode, the other ones, you don't really need to worry about it. Scroll, I'm pretty sure, is exactly as it says. Hey, look, it's me a lot. It's pretty self-explanatory. So if I want to remove this, I just hit remove. There we go. So that's mostly everything. If you have any questions, please put it in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to me. This took 27 minutes to record. If you have any questions, again, put them in the comments. I'll try to respond to them as soon as possible. If there are enough questions of a specific topic, I'll make another video on it. But for now, have a good day, guys. See ya.